Hey, what's up, y'all? I get emails and questions quite a bit on, planning trips, how to plan my kayak trip and be safe, and what's the max wind speed that I'll kayak fish in and stuff like that. Um, the biggest thing is that you should be going out there early in the morning, especially as a kayak fisherman, and especially we're getting into summertime patterns. Basically, I know summertime is like June 20th or something, but as far as the water temp goes, it's getting warmer, and the early morning bite for me is usually better. So, but more importantly, the wind is calmer early in the morning. Typically, you have about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours of some pretty decent wind, unless that whole day was just going to be blown out anyways. I will fish in some pretty bad stuff if I'm by myself and I hadn't been in a couple of days and I really want to go. If I have a customer who booked a trip with me and I call him and I say, look, it's going to be windy, and he says, hey, it doesn't matter, I think we can do it, So if I have a customer that's okay with it being windy, I'll fish up to 20 miles an hour. It's not really that fun. It's definitely doable, but I pick protected areas and areas where I can get out of that wind. I'm not going to fish in an open bay where that wind has been blowing and chop has been blowing all the way across the bay. That's not how you fish in the wind, at least with a kayak. So I'm going to go over a few things with y'all and how I plan my trips. So you want to look at the hourly forecast the day before you're going to fish and the morning of, because things change, the weather changes, and I look at them sometimes a few times a day, and it changes, throughout the day. So definitely look at it early in the morning, right before you go, and double check it. I use weatherunderground.com for the hourly forecast and the barometric pressure, and then I use the Weather Channel for the radar, just because that's just what I like. That's just what I'm used to. And then I use Google Earth. Those are the three things that you need to plan your kayak trip or your fishing trip. Even if you're in a boat, same thing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find out the wind direction and the wind speed on the hourly forecast. So let's say I was going to fish tomorrow, which is Friday. We'll go to the hourly forecast and we'll go over to Friday. And I get on the water at 6 a.m. So tomorrow's only 4 miles an hour. To me, that's dead calm. And I'm off the water by 10, 10:30, sometimes 11. It just kind of depends on how far we went. But on this day, it's dead calm. And the highest wind speed is 13 miles an hour. And it's happening in the afternoon. So if you're concerned about wind speed and stuff like that, then fish early that morning. Don't fish the afternoon, even though it's not that bad at 13 miles an hour. So we'll go to Saturday and see what it looks like. And it's basically the same thing, other than it's picking up to 16 in the afternoon or the evening time. So Saturday, is looking like a real good day. Sunday's picking up to 19 that evening. But once again, early in the morning, 9 miles an hour, 8, 10, 12. So it's picking up about 13 miles an hour by 10 a.m., and that's usually the time that I'm heading in. So we had to, sometimes cross some chop on the way back, but we were able to fish, pretty comfortably for 3 or 4 hours. So pick your time of day that you're going to fish based on these things. So those are some decent days, that's coming up. So what about a day that's not so decent? Well, so far on the hourly forecast, they're talking about Monday. We got 14 miles an hour first thing in the morning at 6 a.m. And it's going to pick up to 18 by 10 a.m. This is a sketchy, iffy day for me with trips. But like I said, if I was by myself, I would fish this. And then it's picking up to 21 miles an hour, later in the afternoon and towards the evening time. So, but if you're only able to fish certain days, you're gonna come down for a day or two, and it just so happens that it's one of these days then you'll want to fish protected water. I did make a video on protected water and and how to find it using Google Earth. I'll put that video at the end of this one so y'all can click on it, but we'll go over a couple of those things real quick too. So on this day, it's coming out of the south, pretty much south, south, southeast. So pretty much south and southeast. So now you have to go to Google Earth, and you have to have fishing spots. You have to have a ton of them. You have to have some that are good for a north wind, some for a west, some for an east, some for a south. You have to have all these spots as a kayak fisherman, because you're going to have windy days and you're going to want to go fishing. So you need different spots because the wind direction matters, and I'm going to show you why. So we'll go over to Google Earth, and we know it's a south wind. So that means on any bay, doesn't matter where you want to fish at, you do not want to pick the northern banks. So these are your northern banks all in here, and then you got the causeway, so we won't talk about that. And then you have these northern banks that go all the way this way. And then you have some protection, this island right here. So any of this side of these islands on a south wind, this is Corpus Christi Bay, it's going to be blowing all the way across the bay, and it is going to build and build and build. And these northern banks are going to be the worst. They're going to be blown out. No way you can kayak fish in 20-mile-an-hour winds on that particular scenario. So it's different if you have islands and stuff that are breaking it up. So the only areas that you could fish that's close to this would be on the other side. Your southern banks will be protected from a southern wind. So these are your southern banks over in here, and all of this will be protected. But the further you get away from that protected bank, your chop's going to start to build and build bigger and bigger as it goes across this bay. So your calm water is basically, all in here, all the way down until you pass this point right here. That water and that chop from the south wind is going to blow through and under the causeway. The causeway will break it up quite a bit, but not really enough to call it protected. So it'll still be pretty choppy here, and it's going to get choppier and choppier as it goes across this bay. So you have to pick your spot. Like I said, south wind, southwest, southeast, all of this is protected. So as long as that wind is coming off of the bank, then it is a protected bank. So that southeast would be blowing like this. That's southeast, and it's still coming off of that bank. But then if you go east, which is straight that way, it's still going to come off of that bank. So it's still mostly protected, but it's going to be, you're starting to push it now. But then northeast will be blowing like that. So you're going to have all that water pushing across this small little bay. And in a northeast, this side won't be protected. And on a north, this side won't be protected because it had been blowing all the way across this bay. So now this side is going to be your wind blown side. So on a north wind, you don't want to fish this side. Now it's the opposite. You're going to want to fish this side. This is your northern bank coming from the water. Here's your water. You got north up there, you got south down there, and on a north wind, it'll be coming off of the bank. So you would fish this side if it was a northern wind. So you have to have all these spots, based on, well, for one, you want to catch fish and you want to, have a good day out there. But for two, you want to be safe. So you have to have spots for each wind direction. I used to hear people say, man, I hate a west wind or an east wind or whatever. And I used to ask them, well, why? Do the fish not bite? And they're like, no, it just sucks, and they never would tell me the reason. I'm pretty sure the reason is because of the area they're fishing. There's certain areas that I'm fishing that I don't want it to come out of the east because now all of it's blown. It's blown out. So or out of the west. It just depends on the spot. So we'll get back to some of those islands and whatnot. So we talked about a south wind blowing all the way across this bay and it being real choppy all in there. But on the other side of these islands, it's not going to be so bad because it's breaking up the wind. It starts its process all over again with building chop when it comes off of this new protected bank right here, or it's kind of like a little marsh area or something. So it's going to be real calm on this side of that island on a southern wind, and also on this side. But this is a pretty wide area. It's not crazy wide. By the time it starts its process all over again, it's going to start to build out here, and then it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So now this is your windblown side over here on a south wind. So the other thing I look at is the radar, like I mentioned, and I just use weather.com for the radar. And you know, I'm looking for stuff that's yellow and red. Those are the harder rains. So in our area, you know, we don't have any rain around, but let's say we had this right here getting close to our fishing spot. All you'd have to do is hit the back button over here to go to the past, and then hit play and see which direction this storm is moving. And it is moving mostly east. If you keep watching it, it's going to the right, which is east. So you know it's coming to the east. And let's just say our fishing spot was over here, and we see this yellow and red coming at us, then you don't want to fish, especially in a kayak. Some of these storms bring a lot of wind. I've been stuck in quite a few of them. Some of them I knew it was probably going to happen, but I wanted to fish that prefrontal bite because it's pretty dang good, and it's not safe, man. One time I was stuck in 60-mile-an-hour winds. I barely made it to this little mangrove island and tied up and had to wait it out. That was back before I used to look at the radar. I was looking at the hourly forecast. It said 20 or 30% chance of rain for a few hours that morning. And I said, okay, 20% chance I might get showered on, no big deal. I used to not look at the radar. Y'all have to look at all these things if you want to try to stay safe and have a decent day on the water. And plus, it all takes time on the water, and you need to know whenever you're uncomfortable with a certain amount of wind, you need to know, was it 13 miles an hour? Was it 15? Was it 18? At what point did it start to suck for you that you were out there in that wind? And you should pick up your phone and check the hourly forecast right then and there and see how hard it's blowing. Eventually, you'll get to where you just know, hey, it's about 12 miles an hour, or man, it's about 15, and you start to realize what you're capable of and what you're not, and what you don't want to go into. You don't want to put yourself in a crappy situation that can turn possibly bad. So late spring, summer, early fall, pretty early fall, it's mostly southeast winds that we have, but we sometimes have little northerns that come through, and the wind shifts and changes, and you can see it on the hourly forecast. It'll say south, 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 maybe a rain chance, and then turning north or northeast or northwest. That's a front coming in. So if you can fish before that, it can be some really good fishing, but you have to be off the water before that front hits. So you have to keep an eye on the radar while you're out there on the water. Keep an eye on the clouds, look at them, see if they're starting to look bad, and try to get in before that stuff hits. I also get asked about where to launch at. I have a video on my YouTube channel about that. I'll put that on the end screen as well. I'll probably put these in the video description. Also, fishing spots. People ask me about where to fish at all the time, and I do have a video that has quite a few good spots on it, and that I've done good at. So hopefully they help you out, and If you want to know where I'm catching fish at every single week, I have a membership page. All that stuff is down in the video description and in the comment section. If y'all want to book a kayak trip, I start to open up towards the end of June, and then mostly July is wide open. So y'all can give me a call. I'll put my phone number right there and also down below. Or you can go to cleanfunfishing.com and take care of all those things. Also, if you're a single kayaker, meaning you want to book a trip by yourself, and you go to my website and you see that I'm booked already, I do have open spots for single kayakers sometimes, so it'd be best just to give me a call. So I hope the tips were helpful. Thanks for watching, and tight lines, y'all.